Welcome back to another episode of Kicking It with Coach Red, where we bring you all the news, stories, takes, and opinions about your favorite teams from the Pacific North, fresh from the good to the bad to the Mariners.
The sweet, sweet Mariners, baby.
Luckily, in Seattle, there is a little extra sweetness to go around. It's not honey season, it's not the middle of summer, but the Seahawks are continuing to exceed expectation. But before we get into that, why don't I tell you a little bit about us? If you're looking for a coach with a mind that is hard to find, you're looking for a guy like me, your boy, Coach Red. You can find me on X at the real Coach Red, on Instagram at the real underscore Coach Red, TikTok at the real Coach Red. Also find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and leave a comment or two. If you're looking for a historian that ain't gonna be boring, you see, that was the closest one I could get. We've got fan favorite Scott the Thought, aka Scottish Cheese, aka Scott.
Yeah, well, that's the
No,
kindest intro I've ever had. So I appreciate.
no social media affiliations.
No,
Nope, nope.
nope, nope.
And
You don't need to know who I am.
And if you're looking for someone that's loud, and I hope it plays well with this crowd, it's
That's
Kane.
me. Yeah, I'm Kane. You can find me over on Twitter, Kane2406, TikTok, Kane0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. False. Do it, freaking do it.
We've wanted to get Scott on another episode for a while to talk Hawks, and it was a little bit delayed because of the Seahawks push or the Mariners push deeper into the playoffs that kind of stunted our Seahawks game. But
Yep.
Scott has definitely got the older Seahawks, and he looks at the game a little bit differently. But with the passing of Kenny Easley, which I believe we briefly touched on last week, we wanted to get someone on that got to see it firsthand for years and really do it justice better than we could. So, Scott, tell us about Kenny Easley.
Well, he was a number one draft pick in 1981. He came out of Virginia. Um, he was a safety. He was drafted in the fourth. He was the fourth pick of the first round. When he was in high school, he rushed over 100 yards and passed over 100 yards. And that's something that we have to remind ourselves. Some of these players on these teams that, they played quarterback in high school. They were tremendous athletes. So when he
And that's
played,
kind of back in the time when you were probably running a little bit more wishbone, wing tee, that type of offense. So usually the passing stats in high school out of those guys typically weren't at a precipice. Even getting 100 yards was sometimes tough to do.
sure, but he had 1,000 yards as a quarterback in high school.
Yeah.
That's
And
nuts.
he had 1,000 rushing yards in high school as a quarterback. Um, he went to play for Virginia in 1977. He had 83 tackles. He had 9 interceptions. And so he was drafted number four in 1981. And the Seahawks back then, we started in 76. It was a weak team and it wasn't anything impressive. So, you look at these players that are drafted early in these weak teams and you wonder how are they going to make themselves look decent? You know, I think back to Carolina a couple of years ago, and you had Baker Mayfield and you had Sam Darnold on the same team. And that team was so pathetically coached, and it was so pathetically, with the manager, the general manager, they couldn't make either of those quarterbacks worth anything. And now they both potentially could be Pro Bowlers. So Kenny Easley came to a really weak team, and he only played 7 seasons. and he was considered he was the enforcer because he was one of those players that comes along that kind of changes the way football is played. He was a safety, but he was built more like a linebacker, and he was an interception machine. He would snag the ball and he would run the most almost fluid routes as a route runner going through. But if anybody came through the middle, he'd take their head off. He was Cam Chancellor before Cam's Chancellor, and he was an amazing safety. And I'm not sure you would have had the same respect for Ed Reed or Palomalu or Cam Chancellor or any of those safeties, but Kenny Easley was the prototype that changed that position. So after 7 years playing for the Seahawks, um, and they were pathetic in the 80s. They weren't a good team. They had, they were like mediocre and below, but he still gets in the Hall of Fame because of what he did. So, um, the Seahawks in his seventh season traded him to the Cardinals, but he didn't make the team because he had kidney disease. And back in the 80s, they didn't have the same rehab or whatever when players got dinged up and injured and hurt. So he was taking like 30 or 4 Tylenol a day to deal
Jeez.
with the pain.
Yeah.
And it killed his kidneys. So he went to Cardinals, but he couldn't pass the physical because of what he had. So there was he had a lot of resentment toward the Hawks for a number of years, but they eventually reconciled. And then when he retired, he bought a Cadillac dealership in Linwood, Washington, where I grew up. And he became a businessman. And he lived beyond football. But you can't understate what he did for the game, not just for the Seahawks, but for the league and the change of the player. Now, there was probably some good safeties on the Raiders and the Steelers and those other teams in the 70s. But, Kenny Easley was a very special player. So I want to talk about another safety really quickly on the Seahawks that I've been impressed with. And his name is Okada,
Oh, Ty Okada's been awesome.
right?
Got a little
But
banged up in that game. I know that afterwards
Oh,
Mike McDonald said we needed him to it not to be serious because we were running out of safeties.
yes.
it was reported today that IR might be a thing.
Oh, it's too bad because he's 5'11",
Yes.
193 pounds from Montana State. We didn't draft him. He was an undrafted free agent in 2023. He came
Mhm.
up from the practice squad to getting fired. I don't know how many times between that until he got a special teams position. But when he played, when he was in Montana, he was an all-conference baseball and wrestling guy. He was an athlete.
Mhm.
And
It shows on the football field, let me tell you.
yeah, and he was a quarterback as a senior in high school in 2022 also, and he was the player of the year in Montana. So it's really interesting to see where these athletes come out. How does this guy, you know, somehow bubble up through the ether? And good for him. Good for him.
Uh, Let me tell you, his name is Mike McDonald. That's what
Yeah,
happened.
yeah. So
Well,
what I'm saying is it's interesting. You have this great player for the
Hmm.
Seahawks, Kenny Easley, on mediocre teams, but he still makes it to the Hall of Fame because other players recognized what he did.
Hmm.
But then you see this Okada kid coming up out of the ether who should be a failure, who shouldn't have the talent or the size, but it's a great story.
Playing meaningful snaps.
Yeah.
well, and that's the thing that you look at across the league is there's never and you're looking for those outliers, right? You're looking for those guys who have unique and special talents. Have been plenty of guys that you look at throughout the years that changed the position and weren't that traditional body type, weren't what you expected. You know, even if you look at certain Seahawks, the likes of Doug Baldwin, right? Undersized,
First,
UDFA, you're not sure what you're going to get out of him. You look at Russell Wilson, undersized. What can he do? You look around the league too. You look at a Tank Dell, although the size has been an issue with him staying healthy, but also Devonta Smith. They were worried about his size being an issue in the NFL.
what
So,
about Puna Ford?
yeah, the short, squatty, but the arms of like a 6'7" guy, right? It's being able to find those unique talents and being able to see how you can make them successful within your scheme. And you're not always going to sit there and be like, hey, we're going to scheme up for, our number 3 defensive lineman or our number 4 wide receiver. But when they're on the field, putting them in positions to succeed. And you could definitely see it across the league that, like you said, Scott, some of those teams that have been near the top, like Carolina a few years back, you look at the Saints recently. Let's just go off the NFC South, but you look at the Browns most years, year in and year out. It's what can you do to put your players in successful spots, and can you build a roster that complements one another? And I think that's a testament to what you've seen John Snyder do his entire career with Pete Carroll, not worrying about the personalities of guys, because knowing that Pete could handle that, being a player's first type coach, and then making that switch to Mike McDonald, that's not as much of that player friendly coach, but has a high expectation and knows what he wants. And you saw that in year one after the offense didn't perform like he wanted, even though the numbers were solid. They didn't commit to the run like he wanted. So they go and find a guy that, even when they're pounding their head against the wall, in Clint Kubiak, where they still stick with the run game, and they're pretty close to a 50-50, where Grubb was more of a 65-35 pass to run. So, roundabout way of saying, Kenny Easley, game changer, Hall of Famer,
Freak.
freak,
Seahawks
man.
legend.
All right, let's go into this week's game. Seahawks traveled on down to Nashville, and the game was a little bit closer than I think anyone anticipated, but let's break it down by quarter. First quarter, Seahawks score 3. Tennessee also scores 3. Second quarter, Seahawks put on 13. Tennessee 0. 14 apiece in the third quarter, and then the Seahawks are 0 in the fourth. 7 for Tennessee for a Seahawks win at 30-24. Quarter by quarter, Joey Sly 22-yard field goal to kick the game off. Jason Myers knocks in a 47-yarder. In the second quarter, JSN with a 63-yard bomb from Sam Darnold. Tack on a couple of field goals from Jason Myers, one's from 30 and one from 36 as time expires. Seahawks start off third quarter, end up with a 13-yard touchdown pass to JSN from Sam Darnold. Then DK, 90-yard punt return for Tennessee, followed up by Zach Charbonnet, 5-yard run for a touchdown. And Cam Ward says, you want 5 yards, I'll give you 6-yard touchdown run going up over the top. And then in the fourth quarter, 1-yard pass to DK from Ward. Try for an onside, touch it early. Mariners take the knee and ice the game.
Seahawks take the knee.
Yep. Sorry. I'm doing a lot of work for the Mariners top 50, and I've been doing a lot of research for it. So the Mariners name is very high on my mind right now. So Seahawks.
So Cam Ward played an exceptionally well game.
Yeah.
I would say he played an amazing game.
I'd venture to say that it
what
was
he
one
had,
of his better games of the
year. And you know what? For that, still the Seahawks defense still dominated.
Yeah.
It from what it seemed like, right? Like still made him uncomfortable in the pocket. There was lots of times where it was a big sack, but
I will say the Seahawks were phenomenal in downs 1 through 3.
Mhm.
Yes.
The issue was starting middle of the third quarter, they had trouble getting off the field for fourth down. And there were some times where that was due to penalty that extended the drive for the
Mm-hmm.
Titans. They just kept getting in their own way a little bit. And you sat there, and we came off a week where they had 0 sacks and then turn around with 4. You don't have any turnovers in this game. But like you said, they kept them off kilter. You had a best game from Cam Ward, who was missing his top 2 wide receivers
Mm-hmm.
in terms of ability and production. And they were still able to get some things done, especially with a lackluster run game, because the Seahawks, I think they gave up less than 80 yards total of rushing. So it was just a lot of key penalties at inopportune times that led to first downs, or Cam Ward having a little bit of magic that kept that game going. But the Seahawks did enough early to be able to weather that storm of a team that has absolutely nothing to lose,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that are
they're not
playing
making the
young and
playoff.
wild and free.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But all in all, it's still a good game. I mean,
Well,
offense was fun again.
you're going across the country for an early morning game. Even, even if they're what quote unquote a scrub team, they've got outstanding players too that can, gum things up. But, the early scoring drive of the Seahawks kind of set the tone. And then the defense gets a little bit lazy, kind of lets some plays go. But, I think the issue with our defense right now is we've got a amazing defensive line that can stuff runs. And we have a really pretty good backfield in terms of, even if we lose a player or two, people that we bring up or can fill the places. I'm concerned about our linebackers.
See, I'm more in the camp of, I think that you finally saw the amount of injuries that have been piling up defensively kind of play in to that third
Mhm.
and fourth quarter when you lose
Yeah.
Okada and you're sitting there with 2 guys that did not at the linebacker position that didn't
O'Connell
start.
was out too.
Yeah. And you're sitting
And
there.
Knight was out too.
So you're sitting there without any of your starting linebacking core. You've got no Jonathan Hankins. You got no Jaron Reed. You've
Yeah.
got you've got a slew of guys that you're hoping can come back, right? I think Mike McDonald touched on that. But I watched Mike McDonald's post game. He gave out one game ball. We'll get into our game balls later, but he said it's tough to win in the NFL. You're on the road. Although the Seahawks have done traditionally well under Mike McDonald at 10 a.m. starts, right? I think he's undefeated in them. He's able to get them going, but in the grand scheme of things, it is tough to win week in, week out. You had a tough fought game the week before that ends in heartbreak. You think of this as that cupcake game, as a get right game. And I think it was a get right game, especially for the offense, right?
Yeah.
No turnovers. They were able to be efficient in multiple ways.
Yeah.
But when you look at the grand scheme of things, you want this to continue to build, to make that push, to put yourself in the best position going forward for the playoffs. And how can you do that? Stacking dubs.
Yeah, and it's exactly I their mentality for the rest of the year is don't lose. No
Mhm.
more losses. And like a credit to the offense this week, all assets looked great. K9 looked
Let's talk about the
phenomenal.
offense. I've got
Yeah.
some stats here.
Oh,
So
do you?
we'll start
Yeah, I
off with
bet you
Sam
do.
Darnold, coming off his 4 interception game. He was 16 for 26, 244 yards,
Mm-hmm.
2 touchdowns, and he did take 1 sack. And I will say, the 1 sack that he took was on fourth down. I would have liked him to just throw it up. Like, that's the time I would have taken the interception.
Sure, sure. But also Jeffrey Simmons, I think, got him on it. So
He got there pretty quick.
yeah, Gray's able looked like a rookie, but you know, on that play. And
On that play, he
yeah,
looked at Pro
One
Bowl and the other ones.
one play.
Yeah, I mean, it just showed
He's
through,
a beast.
just kind of like it showed through a little bit last week against the Rams defensive line. As Mike McDonald said, he had this game circled on his calendar because he wanted to
Yep.
go up against Jeffrey Simmons, which respectable, right?
Yeah,
He played a clean game for most of it, just lost him on that one.
that's all right. That's how
Yeah,
you learn.
and
You
also like
study.
I know Sam was dipping and dodging last week. Like I'm glad he took a sack. To be honest, cool.
I just don't want to take. I just don't. I'm okay with the sack on not fourth down at
That's
midfield.
fair. That's fair.
I I'd much prefer even an incompletion where you're throwing it away or throwing if you've got a guy to go route, just throwing it up, looking for potentially a pass interference. Kind of like what you saw um the Titans get, right? So
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, I'm not gonna be mad at a guy that goes
didn't
for
turn the ball
250
over.
yards and two tutties.
No.
Exactly.
Nope.
All
Yeah.
right, the rushing attack, the number was lower than I expected to see, right? Because they were so efficient with how they scored. But Kenneth Walker, uh, 11 carries, 71 yards. Zach Charbonnet had 6 carries for 36 with a touchdown.
K9 is starting to show flashes again of
Got
what
that.
he
He's got a little
was.
sizzle in him.
It's no I what I'm not seeing from him is waiting for a hole to open up. As soon as he sees the slightest bit of daylight, it's kind of shot through the cannon. And I was impressed this week. He seemed like he was getting 6 to 7 yards every carry. The legs were churning, and it didn't look like he was giving up on a run.
No, and how many passing yards did he get, Justin?
We'll get there, and it's Coach
Whoa,
Red.
Coach
All right,
Red.
sorry, dude.
Man, wow. Wow.
Sorry,
Docs,
Who are
Docs.
you?
half Scottish
Who are
cheese,
you? My nephew?
whatever.
We'll get to that. We'll get
Get
to
right
that in the
into
next
it.
side. But the one thing, like you're saying, is Walker just hitting the hole and going. I think that what you saw this week, comparative to some weeks past, is him getting through the hole, then bouncing it out instead of bouncing it out before the hole
Mhm.
has developed. That's where you saw the hold on Nick Callerup in the Rams game where he bounced it out early and you get that hold. As long as you get past that first line and then make your cut, then make your move. That's what
Yeah.
you saw Kenneth Walker do. And that's typically where he struggled, is starting between the tackles, is usually getting gummed up there, where he was able to get through that first line, then make some stuff happen afterwards. And
Yeah, I
I
was
think
really
that's going
impressed.
to be key for him as they continue to go up against the rest of their schedule, even when we go into next week. When you really look at the Vikings, they've been pretty tough defensively with not a
Mhm.
lot of guys you've heard of. And, you look at their ability to stymie kind of both the run game and the pass game, but where they've been susceptible is when you can get a guy with a little bit of juice that can get those chunk plays that really helps accelerate your offense. And I think that's what we saw out of Kenneth Walker this week.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get to the receiving, but we're not going to talk about Kenneth Walker. We'll talk about JSN, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. First, 8 catches,
62.
167 yards with 2 touchdowns. And
Yeah, he did.
on that day, he, in game 11, goes ahead and breaks the Seahawks single season receiving yards record. Kenneth Walker, 3 catches for 30 yards. Most of that came on 1 catch for 29 yards. Then you have Cooper Kupp, 2 catches for 24 yards, and AJ Barner, 2 catches for 18 yards.
Yeah, man. JSN. I called it last week that he was going to get 150 or more. He's back on track for averaging 130 yards per game to break the record. Um, but what can I say about this guy?
I don't
He's
know. Say it.
been phenomenal. Phenomenal. Absolute
Say it.
class act. I can't believe this is the type of wide receiver play we're seeing out of him. I knew he was good coming out of college. I didn't realize that he was this good.
The
Um,
20 pick.
Yeah, I think 21st.
20,
20.
but well, maybe he's 21st, but how many
But
I
would have
think he
picked
was
them over
20.
who they picked?
yeah, exactly. And so the way that Jay has said can get open, like it was a masterclass we saw yesterday.
His body control is second to none. He's got some of the best hands in the league. You know,
Hmm.
we talked about the one-handed grab against the Rams, but his um 63-yard touchdown catch where he's got a guy draped on him, does an extension, doesn't push off, contorts the body, is able to come down and, you know, basically
That's
Shrug him
lower
off.
moonwalk
body
into the
strength.
end zone.
That's the lower body strength that he has. And again, he has a unique physical body to be receiver. He's not the fastest, he's not the tallest, but he beat DK Metcalf's record, and good for him
Mhm.
because DK is not having such a great season in Pittsburgh.
He's scoring tutties. I'll to give him that.
He's got five.
Whatever. Yeah, but
I think he's got more.
He's got
they're
five
not going to
receiving
go far in the
touchdowns.
playoffs. We lost him. JSN stepped up, and you know he's above Steve Largent. Going back to the day, Steve Largent always got those clutch passes. Steve Largent wasn't tall, he wasn't fast, but he knew how to get open. And this guy is
That's all he
fast
does.
and he's stronger than Steve Largent and he's able to get open.
It just seems like there is no DB that can cover him.
No, no, they look like failures the whole game.
Yeah.
They
Love
look
that.
like they should be back on the practice squad. I mean, he makes fools out of people. And you're
It's
like,
crazy.
how does he do it? Because he isn't, this athletic, hybrid tight end
I
slash receiver. He's not Jimmy Graham. He's not
uh,
DK Metcalf. He's his own player.
I
And
will say that Sam gives him the most perfect ball every time.
yeah,
It's second to none because
and
he can't hit
there's
that
no
past anybody
receiver and
else
quarterback connection.
better than those two.
No.
Right now,
In at to as we sit here in yesterday's game, no, but I would venture to say that Joe Burrow and Jamar Jefferson or Jamar Chase are
yeah.
right are have the best connection. But the one thing that I would like to see, and it's something I hate to
Joe
beat the
Burrow
drum,
is going to get smacked to hell. I'm
he
sorry.
has been.
Yeah, and he's going to continue to be smacked to hell. Our offensive line is better than last year, and we're going to talk about that at the end of the podcast for sure.
And I'm gonna beat the drum where we saw it last week how good AJ Barner can be, but
Yes,
we need to distribute the ball to more people,
That's what I
right?
said today
Opening up that
too.
game. Rashid Shaheed hasn't really gotten going yet. He only had, I believe, one target in this
zero.
game
Well, he
and
had zero catches.
zero catches, one target. AJ Barner was only targeted a couple times. Cooper Kupp only targeted a couple times. You've got players that can make plays, right? We've established that when you look at the Commanders game where JSN still had a big game, but he didn't have the touchdowns. Torrey Horton, Cody White, AJ Barner. You've got to be able to get more than two catches from non-running backs
Yeah.
in today's game. And I think that's going to be imperative going forward. I think they are going to scheme up potentially some more screens for Rashid Shaheed, especially with having Cooper Kupp as a blocker. I think that there are ways and points that you can get Cooper Kupp lost in the sauce and going up against linebackers, especially on some of those crossers where
Mm,
he's been successful. So being able to, yes, JSN is doing otherworldly things and he is getting the lion's share of targets, but there's going to be times as you go down the stretch where you're going to need to win games and you're going to see JSN having safety help over the top of him at all times. That's when you need your other guys to step up. Right. And I
agreed.
think that you have players that can do that. Cooper Kupp doesn't have the separation that he used to have, but AJ Barner, big body type, soft hands, Elijah Arroyo. You've got Rashid Shaheed that can burn. You got Torrey Horton when he comes back off of IR that can burn, right? You've got Jake Bobo, who's another big body type wide receiver. And you got Cody White that has done stuff as well. So you can incorporate some of those guys like a Bobo and a Cup to really accelerate a screen game, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Bobo is a good story. I'm not sure he's going to hang around on this team forever.
No, he's probably gone after the year, to be
Yeah.
honest, unless they
I
don't bring it
mean,
back on the cheap
it's a
cheap.
great story, whatever, but it's the
Great
NFL.
blocker. Great blocker.
Scott's ready to call people terrible and throw them on the practice squad. That's what
No,
he
no,
came
I
here to do
won't do
today.
that, but he is a great story. What was he from UCLA or USC?
He was Duke to UCLA.
Okay. And then he came up undrafted.
Undrafted free agent, big body type. Really excelled in that preseason. Big body kind of, and he filled in that DK Metcalf role when DK was out injured. But in the grand scheme of things, JSN is doing things we've never seen before, but that's also because he's getting a target share like we've never seen before on a team that is this successful.
And he keeps
Yeah.
catching the ball, so why would you change it?
I know. I do think that the other guys, that Sam and this offense, they need to be able to put those guys in a position to succeed a little bit better, especially as we get closer and closer to playoff time. And I think that, like I said last week, 10 catches by AJ Barner, 70 yards, 7 yards a chunk out of a tight end. That was Witten-esque.
I love me some AJ Barner, let me tell you.
All
I
right,
wish
let's
we
go.
had Parkinson back, by the way. He looked really good. He's looking good.
He got
I
paid.
mean, yeah, but that's football, isn't it? That's the NFL.
Top over to the defense and go with some of the guys that filled up the stat sheet. First guy, Drake Thomas, 10 tackles on the day, 1 tackle for loss. You had Patrick O'Connell getting the start up from the practice squad, 9 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Nikki Manwari had 8 tackles on the day. Byron Murphy, 5 tackles, 1 sack, 1 TFL. Leonard Williams, 4 tackles, 1 sack, 1 TFL, 4 quarterback hits. Devin Witherspoon, 4 tackles, 2 passes defended. And Derek Hall, 3 tackles, 1 sack, 1 TFL, and 1 pass defended.
Okay, here's the thing that something we need to start talking about as Seahawks fans. How do you keep Hall and I'm trying to remember the names, the other defensive ends that,
Boye Bafe,
yeah, Mafe and
Uchenna.
yeah.
Shannon Nwosu.
How do you
Nwosu,
keep them on the same team next year?
you don't.
You
Play
don't.
stupid money for one of those guys.
Boye Mafe is off this team. Derek Hall has 1 more year. And Uchenna, I believe,
He
has another.
restructured to take less money. So
Yeah.
he's there. Dexter Lawrence looked pretty solid in this game, too.
Oh
He was a
God, yeah.
disruptive force in the backfield. Um, and that's the other thing that we really look at with this team is,
DeMarcus Lawrence.
yeah, DeMarcus Lawrence. I
Yeah.
get him. I always say Dexter.
He's not sexy Dexy.
But what I will say
He's
is
not
what Mike
Dexter Manley.
McDonald,
Couldn't read him.
what he's able to get out of his defensive line and edge groups at all of his stops. When you look at his time at Michigan, when you look at his time with Baltimore, he was always able to get production. And you're seeing that because the Seahawks still are one of the lowest blitzing percentage team in the league, yet they're near the top of the league in sacks. They're at the top of the league in pressures still, and they make it uncomfortable for opposing quarterbacks. And they do it by technique and scheme, a lot of it. Yes, you need the players that can do it. And I think that Leonard Williams is a key cog in that whole mess. He is the linchpin. And what you've seen that jump up from Byron Murphy in year 2 and his ability to
Yeah.
not only stuff the run, but also create pressure in the backfield. Those two are a tough tandem on the interior, especially when they're lined up with one another. Then it really opens up that edge play for you.
But the edge play, how do you keep all three of those guys being paid 15 million a year? You
You
can't.
can't. Yeah, Boye Mafe is the one that you're looking at that will probably
He's
be gone. And I think that it's something that you are going to address in the draft in this upcoming year.
agreed. And you're going to get the best 3 years of DeMarcus Lawrence that you can get. Because what he's doing, I believe, at 34 years old or 35 is un. It's like Dwight Freeney later in his career when he was still spin moving past dudes. Is
Jason
crazy.
Pierre-Paul before he blew his hand off.
He was still pretty
He
solid
was, he
after
was
he
pretty
blew his
solid
hand off.
afterward, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Defensive ends, that's one of the positions that lasts longer typically. If you're a running back and you have 4 years, you're good. I mean, it's sad, but that's a brutal position. You get broken down. I think of CJ Procise, who played for the Hawks, and people, oh, he was injury prone.
So good. He was so good.
He was injury prone. He had his shoulder blade shattered. How are you going to come back from that?
Yeah,
You
it's kind of
know,
hard.
Drink
yeah.
more milk.
Who was the little guy that we had that was undrafted that was so good? Um,
Oh, there's so many.
well,
Was it a little Thomas Rouse?
You had Thomas Rawls.
yes, it was Thomas Rawls.
Yeah, he was
He
awesome
was a
too.
little psycho, but he couldn't last. And
JD McKissick.
yes,
Another one.
there's certain positions that can last, and there's certain ones that
Chris
can't. That's
Carson.
how you have to figure out how you draft.
Yep. And the Seahawks have done an extremely good job in recent years on hitting on those guys and being able to fulfill those. You had that couple of years where it was a little bit hit or miss with John Snyder and the scouting team, but they seem to be back on the right track. And you see that in a variety of ways, offensively and defensively. Speaking of that, Kane, I'm going to start with Scottage Cheese on who his offensive player of the week was.
Zabel.
Gray Zabel. I did not think you were going Gray Zabel.
Yeah,
Crazy.
no, he was injured. He was iffy. He wanted to play. He went into the game. He did an admirable job. And,
Stud.
offensive players, he was hurt. He played, and I hope he can come back from it. But, our offensive line the last couple of years has extremely sucked, right?
That's an understatement.
And, him next to Charles Cross sealing up that left-hand side.
Best friends, by the way. They're
Yeah.
best friends.
Okay.
Been
But,
confirmed.
he shouldn't have gone into that game, but he was desperate to go into that game.
Mike's
And
not
I
gonna
hope it
hold somebody
doesn't,
back.
yeah, because the guard position has been a horror show for the Seahawks for years.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't say anything today
No.
about Zabel's knee, so
Mike McDonald said post game he it was incredible that he was able to come back from that knee injury
yeah.
in 7 days.
And I don't believe that there's been anything said about his knee today.
Well, we'll see when the injury reports start coming out, but I do expect him to be limited at least tomorrow for sure.
Yeah,
Kane, who do you got as your offensive player of the week?
I made my prediction last week. It came to fruition. It was JSN. I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep it short and sweet. Coach
That's an
Red,
easy pick.
hey, I called it last week.
Okay, good for you. That was an
So,
easy pick, but yeah.
Coach Red, who is your offensive pick?
I'm gonna go with Kenneth Walker.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
He just looked electric again. And
Covered
we
all
said it was
purpose.
going to be a get right game for Darnold, which it was. He limited those things. But outside of a couple of big throws from Darnold, I think that what you saw in totality out of Kenneth Walker is what you hope to see game in and game out, and hope that it's a harbinger for the future on what you see going down this stretch and his ability to get through the hole, then make his cut, be able to get net positive yards, not swirl around in the backfield, get north south, and go put this team in a position because realistically, he is your guy that's going to give you more chunk plays out of the running back room. There's no question about it. Can
Okay.
Charbonnet do it? Yeah, but he's going to bounce off a couple of guys. If you're looking for that true home run hitter, it's Kenneth Walker. And he showed you in multiple instances on the game Sunday that he still has it in him.
Yeah.
All right, let's
Agreed.
hop over to the defensive side. Scott, who do you got as your defensive player of the week?
Even though he's a backup, I'm going to go with Inamware.
He's a starter now.
Just starter.
Yeah, because
Nick is so fun.
he brings a different element to the defense, and he may not get all the stats, but he might be that next Kenny Easley, Cam Chancellor type. I'm going to be very excited to watch his development, and I hope he doesn't get injured badly along the way.
You got to hang out with more baseball folks. You can't talk like that.
Yeah.
That's a jinx and a half.
Oh, well, whatever. I don't believe in jinx. I don't, I don't believe in anything. But,
Uh,
it is, I want to see his development. And he,
mhm.
coming out as a rookie, it doesn't matter what position you're in, you're behind the times. You got to figure out the NFL game. You
And
get,
especially with him missing multiple weeks early on, to
yeah,
see his maturation to the point where he's at right now and contributing at a high level. And the biggest knock on him was he can make the highlight play, but some of the more routine plays, he's trying to rely too much on that athletic ability and not let the play come to him. And I don't think in the last couple of weeks that I've seen a play where I'm like, Nicky Manwari let himself get in the way of making a play by overextending. He's been playing calm, cool, and collected.
yeah. And he's going to be a future star and hopefully, a Pro Bowler.
Well
Kane, who
said.
do you got as your defensive player of the week?
Dude, I'm really torn because I love Drake Thomas this week. He was
Mhm.
phenomenal, but there was one guy who was even better, and it was Big Cat Williams. He he kind of set the tone for that whole defensive line, right? As you said, he had 4 quarterback hits. The pressures was insane. Him and Byron Murphy seemed like they were in the backfield about 50% of the time. Like that's what I saw. And
They were pests.
yeah, like Leonard Williams was an absolute freak this week for me. So it was an easy choice. Coach Red, who's your pick?
I'm going to throw an honorable mention to Devin Witherspoon.
Yeah.
His stats didn't jump off, but there were plenty of times where he was the force guy bringing it back in, and a couple of assists where he didn't necessarily get any tackles, but was key in stymieing them. I'm going to go with your linebacking core of Drake Thomas and Patrick O'Connell. Those guys
Pick.
were absolutely flying around the field. When we were sitting here before the season and looked at the prospect of Tyrese Knight and Ernest Jones, we felt like we were in good hands. In this game, we were in good hands with those two. You looked at some of the pops that they were putting on Cam Ward, on their running backs. They were turning people backwards. Patrick O'Connell gets the start, sack, and a TFL. The sack was on the sideline, but he absolutely plastered Cam Ward. And those two just fly. And those are guys that are week in, week out fighting for roster spots, if you will, especially in the
Jumping up and
likes
down.
of O'Connell. And Drake Thomas was fighting for playing time. This is a guy that early in the season was brought up from the practice squad, then get signed to the active roster. And you're seeing the fruits of their labors. Between the two
Making
of
the
them, you've
most of
got
it.
almost 20 tackles.
He loves to lead with his head, though. He loves to crack dudes. Let me tell you.
If there's no flag, I'm not mad at it.
I know. I just every time I see that dude just flying at somebody, it's just you hear the crack of his helmet.
That's what I want to see out of Seahawks linebackers is them
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
making guys not want to go in the hole again.
All
Oh
right.
man.
Okay, I got to show you here. 45.
Flexing. He's got the Kenny Easley.
Yeah.
Had to do it. Had to do it.
When I played high school football and I admired that guy. And I didn't have the physical talent or the mental talent or the dexterity or the strength, but I wanted to be Kenny Easley. And I couldn't do it, but I can appreciate him. And, you know, good for you, Kenny. Good for you. You lived a good life. And I hope your family's doing well. And I like success stories out of the NFL because there's a lot of really bad stories about how players are treated. But, I hope he lived a good life and he was an inspiration to me back when I was a teenager. I couldn't do what he did, but I appreciated him and he was a lot of fun to watch. And if you ever want to go to YouTube Reels or whatever Reels, fuck, I don't know what a reel is, but watch Kenny Easley. You'll see how the NFL was evolving in the 80s.
Love it. All right.
I'm
See,
sorry for the
you're good.
explicit,
You're
but
good.
I'm sorry. I'm, I'm a huge fan of the Seahawks, and he was a player that I loved. When I was a little boy in the 70s, my dad said you had to either be a Steelers fan or a Cowboys fan. And I was like, I hate the Cowboys. I can't stand Landry. I just like the Steelers. And then when the Seahawks came around, and in like 1979, when I was a little boy in Marymore Park, I got Jim Zorn's autograph at that
Oh
age.
And
yeah.
you're hooked at that point.
Yes, because I went up to him and I said, Mr. Zorn, can you sign this autograph? And my mom gave me a little shitty piece of paper and a pen. And, I went up to him. He said, yes, of course. And I gave him another sheet of paper. I said, can you sign one for my brother? He said, of course I can do that. And he signed them both to us. And my brother and I still have those autographs of Jim Zorn. And then other people started coming up, and he's like, no, I have to go for my family. I can't be here all afternoon. He
Mhm.
was very subtle. He went in his VW bug and he drove off, and that's how you get hooked on a team. And I
Hell
would say
yeah.
that to all the NFL players today on every team. If you ever get a chance to sign an autograph for a young fan, do it because they'll be a fan for life after that.
Yeah. For the ones that actually appreciate autographs.
I
Yep.
do. Yeah, I'm not going to go up to some fucking, sorry, some, you
There's the
know,
first one.
influencer or whatever and say, I want your autograph so I can sell it on the internet. No,
Yeah, no.
I got a lot of autographs,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they're all from sincere times.
And that's what you want to see and not just the swarm and herds that you see bombard them,
No.
having that moment where it's not the pressure is not there and just the sincerity that comes from it, not the mob that showed up afterwards. and
Right.
So
and that
bleep me up, Coach Red, because that's a good story.
I know I didn't bleep it. Luckily I don't have the capabilities to do so just yet. I'm not there yet. But what we are is coming up on a home cooking game. You got the Vikings coming into town. They're 4-7. They've lost their last three. All games have been very close. And really, for most of the year, the games have been close and they've been playing team stuff. You haven't been seeing the level of quarterback play that you've seen in years past, like when they had Kirk Cousins. What you saw last year was Sam Darnold. You saw them do some okay things with Carson Wentz this year. JJ McCarthy leads a comeback win against the Lions, but after the game, he gets put in concussion protocol. So you're likely looking at Max Brosmer's first start, undrafted free agent coming out of the Minnesota Gophers. But I said this before the episode, and I think it holds true. There's been some frustration with JJ McCarthy and his accuracy problem, and something we talked about in the lead up to him getting drafted, and even talked about it before the national title game. And his ability to sometimes, he's got great athletic ability, but he misses some easy throws by a wide margin. You've seen the frustration with Justin Jefferson, but you've got Justin Jefferson, you have Jordan Addison, you have TJ Hawkinson. It's a soft landing spot for any quarterback
And
to
you
come.
also have a workhorse in or Aaron Jones right behind you, right?
Well,
Like,
Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason as a 1-2 punch. And I think that when you look at that, offense has been underwhelming as a whole under JJ McCarthy, but it's going to be interesting to see. And usually in the past, under a Pete Carroll led team, when you had a backup quarterback coming in and making a start, Colt McCoy, hate that guy to this day because he's won multiple games against the Seahawks as a backup. And I think that the Seahawks are in that mode. They see what's ahead of them. They are going to go out and attack. And I think that it's going to open up some possibilities to turn the ball over this week, no matter who's at quarterback, if we're being honest. And then defensively, they've been pretty tough. I mean, when we talked about how you're going to need Kenneth Walker to be able to get you chunk plays last week, Wilson for the Packers runs 23 times. I think he's under or right around 3 yards a carry. There's been plenty of times where people are pounding their head against the walls and not getting huge gains. A couple of times, like against the Chargers, that was the big one. It was Kamani Vidal's coming out game where he was bursting and quick through the holes. You also had Justin Herbert tack on like 67 yards, but they're holding opposing quarterbacks to around 200 to 225 yards a game. So as you look at this team and their record and coming off of 3 straight losses, they've been relatively close losses. And outside of the game last week where the Packers poured it on them, because the Packers defense is just as stymieing as about any in the league right now. So I do think that there is going to be some issues that come with this team, that you're not looking at them like you're looking at a Tennessee Titans. And
oh, for sure. I mean, a Brian Flores led defense is a good defense, to be honest, and I wouldn't be surprised if the dude gets some head coaching looks at the offseason, right? I mean, this is a guy that got a DC job and built that defense to what it is. And he's lost players, but it's kind of like what Mike's doing right now, and he's mix and matching all these different people in there, and it's working, right? So
No.
I mean, are we getting to the picks of the our picks?
I
yeah,
think
Leading up into this?
no. Let me talk real quick. I think the Seahawks defense is going to crucify the Vikings
100%.
offense.
100%.
If they have a backup quarterback, their running back better run for 290 games, yards a game. So I don't see that happening.
I don't
And
either.
can the Seahawks eventually score on the Vikings defense? I think so.
Yes.
So, I don't want to be cocky or arrogant because anything can happen. Injuries happen, everything happens. But, come on. That Vikings offense is going to score on the Seahawks defense where they are right now. And then they're going to get
There's a chance.
healthier. They're going to get healthier. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I did see that they might let Jaron Reed and Julian Love back to practice this week. Isn't that
Yeah.
how
It
they
has
are?
not
So,
been determined yet.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
they just got to
uh,
see how they are on Wednesday.
if the Seahawks lose this game, it's on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
So that's it. Anything can happen. But if the Seahawks lose this game, it's on them because they're a much better team than the Vikings.
All right, Scott. It's your first time doing this. Who do you think is going to be the offensive player of the week this week?
Sam Darnold.
Great pick.
He's going to go off on that defense and shame them.
Scott is looking to take the Lambs to the slaughter this week.
I hope
Kane,
so.
who do you got for your offensive player of the week?
I'm gonna go a little off kilter on this one. I'm going with the hometown kid, Cooper Kupp. I think we're gonna see a big game out of Cooper this week.
I think he's a player's coach.
Oh,
yeah. I just think he's gonna get lost in the sauce, dude. Like you were saying
I hope so.
earlier, and that he will find ways to get open and possibly a touchdown.
But he is coaching so many of those young receivers.
Yeah.
He's telling them how to do it. He won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. All right, coach. Who's your offensive pick this week?
I'm going to say something like I said a few weeks ago, where I think someone needs to have a good game, but he's not my pick. And I think that who needs to have a good game is Kenneth Walker. Being able to get those chunk plays in the run game, I think, is going to be key. But if you guys are just going to leave, we're coming up to Thanksgiving. If you all are going to leave the turkey just sitting
go
there and
ahead.
not touch it, I'm going to take JSN all day. I mean,
Go ahead.
I never get the opportunity to do that, especially I thought going third. I had no shot at JSN. Go ahead and give me the Seahawks single season leading receiver to, I don't know,
Yeah.
do the damn thing again.
Yeah.
All right.
I got a feeling about Cooper, man. I got a feeling this week.
All right, Scott,
All right.
who do you think is going to be the defensive player of the week?
All right, this is an off one. Byron Murphy. He's going to
Good one.
stuff the middle. He's going to plug everything up. He's going to make it really hard for the run game, and they're going to have to start slinging passes.
And I think that with what you've seen, for his ability to go make it tough on a quarterback, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes up with a sack or two as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's going to be a menace. And I think, he's got a lot of good players around him showing how to play the game. And he's in his second season. He was a first round draft pick. You know, those Broncos gave us some good picks.
Thanks, Russ.
Yeah. Oh, poor Russ, by the way. Come on.
Poor guy. All right, Kane, who do you got for your defensive player of the week?
Give me Reek this week.
Really?
He's gonna add somebody. We're gonna call it out again. They're getting reeked. He's been locked down the past month. Trade deadline came up and told reporters that I want to stay. I want to play here. And he's really shown us that with his actions, right? In the Rams game, he was barely locked down all game long.
He looked good. He looked good last week as well, and
Exactly.
actually came in and threw his body on the line and made a couple of tackles at the line of scrimmage against running backs.
Yeah, and I mean, just his play all the way back to the Texans before the bye. He has played lights out. I think that JJ McCarthy, Bosmer, whoever the heck is back there, someone's getting reeked this weekend.
Well, I hope he pulls his head out of his butt with a big popping sound because he does that every so often. And he's got
been
all the
pretty
athletic.
lockdown.
He's been
Well,
pretty.
he has all the athletic ability in the world. He's a freak. He came from what? University of Texas, San Antonio? That is not a powerhouse. So he's got all that freak material, but yeah, he hasn't quite pulled it together consistently.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment.
Yeah. Thank you, King.
All right, Coach, what's next?
My defensive player of the week. My first pick was Reek as well, because I do think I usually try to set myself up with a couple, especially when I'm going third. And I had all DBs this week because I do think that you are going to see the Seahawks be able to turn over whomever is playing quarterback. Go ahead and give me Spoon this week. I think that he's probably going to
He's
be
due.
shadowing a little bit. I think that he's going to be in a good spot. And an honorable mention to Kobe Bryant, because Kobe, I think, in those types of games, especially if the ball's fluttering across the middle, he has an innate ability to be a heat seeking missile to the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that, like we said, being able to up the turnovers and I think get some interceptions, I think that's what you're going to see in this game. And I think you are going to be able to create pressure with your front seven that is going to greatly be beneficial to your secondary in this game.
Hey, also, big shout out to Mike McDonald over the weekend when the cameras caught him celebrating that stop. I've never seen a dude more juiced.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for him.
And
And I feel bad for Pete Carroll. He's down in Raiders 2-9. You
Dug his
know,
own grave, dude.
he brings down Gino. Gino's flipping off the crowd when they're like, "Who's better, Gino or Jamarcus Russell?" Some guy was holding up
Ah!
like that, and Geno Smith's flipping him off. I'm sorry. I don't know where Gino's coming from, but not the right thing to do. He's done.
well, I'd be pretty juiced, and it would be the right thing to do to give us a follow over on social media. You can find me, your boy, Coach Red, on X at the Real Coach
You
Red, on
can't
Instagram
find
at the
me. I'm
Real.
not on it.
He's not on it, but you can find me on Instagram at the real underscore Coach Red, TikTok at the real Coach Red. Also find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and leave a comment or two. Kane, where are you at?
You can find me over on Twitter at K2406, TikTok K0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. False, false, false. Do it, freaking do it.
And you can find Scott on a future episode.
Yes.
Got him. Ah,
I hate social media. I
ah.
don't want to be a part of it. I hate AI. I'm old. I don't
Big
want anything to do with it.
big thanks to Scott for coming on and really doing justice to the legacy of one of the first Seahawks greats to come through the organization and giving him his flowers that he so justly deserves.
Rest in
Thanks,
peace.
Scott.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Hey, and all the listeners, as always, stay fresh.
Stay fresh, peeps.
Peace.